Portkey Games' wizarding RPG Hogwarts Legacy was a smash hit when it was released in 2023, and it has yet to wane in popularity. The game successfully reignited our childlike wonder and brought the wizarding world established in the Harry Potter books to life, giving us the magical playground we've always wanted. But Hogwarts Legacy is far from perfect. A direct sequel has already been confirmed, and although the release date is a painful few years off yet, it's not stopped us all from speculating. We have all been wishing for certain mechanics, features, and longing for the inclusion of certain elements of the wizarding world that have yet to be explored. Hello, I'm Heather at Amalgamingle, and today I want to list a few things that I'm sure we all want to see included in Hogwarts Legacy 2. The lengthy introduction in Hogwarts Legacy does not provide us with the usual experience we've come to expect. We have all dreamed of receiving that coveted letter telling us that we're a witch or wizard and being able to journey to Hogwarts and prepare for the year. But sadly, Hogwarts Legacy decided to take that experience away from us and instead, understandably, focused on laying the foundations for the main story. But I don't think Portkey Games realised just how iconic and important Platform 9 3/4 and the Hogwarts Express is to us fans. I wanted to ride the train, not have an owl swoop over it. I wanted to be excited with classmates about entering the Great Hall and being given a house by the Sorting Hat, not arriving late to the party. In the first Hogwarts Legacy, we definitely feel a disconnect with our protagonist, who seems to be a personalityless fresh slate with no family, history or anything. The fact that we're not given the full experience in the introduction makes the introduction of the game feel forced and disjointed, whilst ensuring this disconnect with our backgroundless protagonist. It would be so awesome to start our amazing journey as if we are simply a young wizard who gets their letter for the first time and must make the commute like every other student. The platform and train are not the only iconic locations omitted in the first game that we would love to see in the sequel. Although roaming around Hogwarts and the surrounding areas is likely to satiate the appetite of casual fans, it would be so great to see more specific locations and further explore some locations only shown or visited briefly in the first game. Apart from Hogsmeade, the school and a handful of smaller hamlets, there's not many notable places to visit outside Hogwarts Castle. The Forbidden Forest doesn't have much to offer players, we don't get to visit the Leaky Cauldron, there's no St Mungo's or other schools, there's no dingy Nocturne Alley, no Whomping Willow or Shrieking Shack, and perhaps most shockingly, we can't explore the Chamber of Secrets or the murky depths of the Black Lake. It would make my inner child so happy if Portkey Games would include these locations in the next game, since all locations I mentioned have great gameplay potential. Having more notable locations would further breathe life into the wizarding world we have all imagined since we were kids. Those who chose Hufflepuff as their house did get a piss-poor glimpse of Azkaban, but that was just a big tease. We can't visit the Ministry of Magic or commit crime and have to face the consequences. Obviously we would be unlikely to see familiar faces working there, but the Ministry of Magic is supposed to be the governing body of the wizarding world. So where were they all those times I cast forbidden magic or while Isidora abused magic? Which brings me nicely to the next desired feature for the sequel.
Because they are unforgivable. The use of any one of them will
earn you a one-way ticket to Azkaban, correct?
Hogwarts Legacy 2 would certainly benefit from the inclusion of a morality system. There are a lot of games out there that include a reputation meter of some kind that determines how certain things will unfold based on your choices and actions. Some games do it well, like Mass Effect, KOTOR, Fable. Others not so much, like Biomutant and Starfield. One thing's for sure, a morality system in Hogwarts Legacy 2 could work very well, since this is a world where dark magic and dark wizards do exist. It's pretty crazy that in the first game, you can swish and flick forbidden magic all over the place with absolutely no penalty, when simply using a forbidden curse should spell a lifetime in Azkaban for the caster. You can also attack students and they don't even flinch. The implementation of a morality system would introduce more RPG mechanics and increase the role-playing potential of the game. Your choices should matter in such a principled world, and this would mean that there would have to be consequences for actions, and certain things should unfold differently depending on your affinity with good and evil. For example, In the first game, supporting Sebastian and learning the forbidden curses has absolutely no repercussions in terms of wizarding law and relationships with other peers and professors who would deem these actions as unethical. Having a morality system would make the inclusion of the Ministry of Magic and Dementors more relevant. It would be quite funny to be summoned to the Ministry for your misdeeds every time you hit a certain dark arts threshold. Perhaps you could end up having trials by combat in the form of dueling, and if you win, you go free. Or the final boss could be the Dementors for a Dark Wizard playthrough. Our student experience should vary depending on our actions, dialogue choices, relationships and house affiliation. It is unforgivable that there is absolutely no deviation in gameplay depending on your chosen house in Hogwarts Legacy, especially when we already know that each of the 4 houses have very different values and vastly differing student personality pools. Ravenclaws are said to value intelligence, learning, wisdom and wit and are said to be book smart. So a Ravenclaw playthrough should place more emphasis on life at Hogwarts, attending classes and becoming more of a knowledgeable wizard than students in other houses. Similarly, Gryffindors value bravery, loyalty and chivalry and are said to be headstrong and adventurous. Therefore, it would make sense for a Gryffindor playthrough to place more emphasis on exploits outside the castle and exploration. Apart from Jackdaw's Ghost Quest, Azkaban and access to common rooms, your choice of house represents only aesthetical differences, which is such a missed opportunity that detracts from the game's replayability. It would also make sense for each house to attend different classes. I suppose what I'm getting at is that in Hogwarts Legacy 2, we definitely want more options, customizability and RPG mechanics. Expanding on my previous entry, Hogwarts Legacy 2 should expand its role-playing potential and replayability by giving us the opportunity to create character builds. The best way I can see to enable this is by making your house choice matter, as I previously mentioned, creating magical specialisms and aptitudes and letting us choose which classes we want to attend, whilst making classes more engaging and meaningful. For example, attending classes could improve a spell's potency and grant house points. If we want to be a good Ravenclaw with a frog familiar and an aptitude for potions and herbology, with care of magical creatures chosen as our magical specialism, then we should be able to create that character. In terms of classes, we should be able to choose a handful of electives alongside core classes, and several extracurricular activities. It's not as if there isn't a wide variety to choose from. Charms, potions, transfiguration, defense against the dark arts, flying, herbology, divination, magical creatures, ancient ruins, alchemy, to name a few. Including magical specialisms and aptitudes in the sequel would make the game more player-driven, instead of feeling like our entire Hogwarts experience is on rails, and therefore every playthrough is the same. It would be excellent to be able to experiment with different character loadouts, where a student with potions as a chosen specialism has access to a wider range of potions and ingredients, whereas a student who chose transfiguration can manipulate the world in fun ways. The potential is mind-blowing. Another area that could use a rework is wands and brooms. These are 2 very important items in the wizarding world, and the lack of significance they have in Hogwarts Legacy is astounding. Again, this is such a huge missed opportunity. They could have had a wide selection of wands and brooms with varying stats, capabilities and customizability. The design choices are so limited too, so in Hogwarts Legacy 2 I definitely hope to see more thought put into these things. I mean, why can't I even buy a new broom if I want to, or really make my broom and wand my own? This next entry is a little bit shorter, but it's quite self-explanatory. Hogwarts Legacy got a lot of things right, like the Room of Requirement, the castle itself, the combat system and more, but the sequel would definitely benefit from expanding on things and broadening variety and interactivity. What I mean by this is giving us more enemy types, beasts, potions, plants, spells, collectibles, NPC dialogue, castle secrets and more. We just want more. Considering the wealth of these things in the source material, it's surprising the game is so limited. Most reviewers had few criticisms with Hogwarts Legacy, but one consistent gripe across the board was the limited range of enemy types. We basically had evil wizards, trolls, spiders, goblins, and those weird zombie things, but that's it. I'm pretty sure that there are more hazards in the wizarding world. There's only a handful of tameable beasts, and there's a lot of spells, potions, and plant life that were completely omitted. Gillyweed, Devil's Snare, Cowbane, Polyjuice Potion that was only used once in the entire game, Apparate, Arunia Exame, the conjuring of the elements like Aguamenti. The list goes on. Polyjuice Potion in particular could have opened up doors for the game, metaphorically and literally. It would have been cool to be able to access other common rooms by transforming into a student belonging to that house, just to have a look around and cause mischief. If Lego Harry Potter can do it, surely Hogwarts Legacy 2 can as well. Perhaps the biggest disappointment for fans when Hogwarts Legacy was released was the shocking exclusion of Quidditch. Especially since the castle grounds included a Quidditch pitch and brooms were used to fly in the game. There wasn't really any reason why Quidditch wasn't a big thing, except maybe the intention to add it later as a DLC, or so not to undermine the release of Quidditch Champions. Or maybe they just simply didn't know how to implement it. Either way, this is something they simply cannot leave out of the sequel, and if they do, they're just being downright mean. If anything is going to make the second game sell itself, it's Quidditch. It would be epic if in Hogwarts Legacy 2 we could go to Quidditch team tryouts and be allocated a position on the team based on our flying skill, and then participate in actual Quidditch matches of varying difficulty with a leaderboard. This would also make the inclusion of more broom varieties with stats more relevant. Quidditch is not the only game we want to see in Hogwarts Legacy 2, since there was a lot of minigames that have not yet been acknowledged. Wizard's Chess is a big one, and would likely be the easiest minigame to implement, since chess actually exists, and I can imagine only a few minor changes would bring this game to life. I know for a fact I would become obsessed with Wizard's Chess, and I would challenge everyone I find. If Portkey Games used Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's Queen's Blood game as a basis to work from in terms of how to find challenges and tournaments, then it would work very well. There's also dueling, which didn't play much of a role in the first game sadly, despite all the foundations already being in place. The combat itself is arguably dueling, but this isn't a minigame, and is against enemies rather than peers. Nothing wrong with having a good old-fashioned combat challenge between friends. Denoming wasn't included either, but I'm not sure how they could include this and not make it a pesky tedious task. Furthermore, it would be great if gaining house points was more of a dominant mechanic too, like in the old Harry Potter PS1 game that regularly awarded and tallied up house points. This would be tied to the morality system whereby good deeds are rewarded with points and evil deeds reduce points. I mean, honestly, if they can spend so much time creating 95 Bloody Merlin trials, I see no reason why they can't reduce the number of trials for the next game and replace its tedium with recognisable fun games, like Wizard's Chess, Quidditch, dueling, house point challenges, more puzzles, etc. My final entry is a few improvements they could make to existing mechanics in Hogwarts Legacy that would improve the overall experience, even with minor tweaks. The existing seasonality in the game was great, but why is there no natural day and night cycle too? Granted, you can switch between day and night using magic, but Trials of Mana has a system where what day of the week and what time of day it is affects the potency of certain abilities, and this kind of thing would actually make more sense in Hogwarts Legacy 2. Going into the Forbidden Forest at night should be more perilous than during the day. Using magical plants during the daytime could be more effective than at night, since plants derive nutrients from sunlight. You could encounter Devil's Snare and werewolves at night time, but not during the day for obvious reasons. Next, the second game seriously needs an inventory overhaul. At the start, you get 20 inventory slots for gear that fill up super fast, and even when increasing the capacity to 40, it's nowhere near enough. A simple trunk in your common room to store things could go a long way, or a vault at Gringotts Bank. Having to constantly manage your inventory to free up space is a drag, and a trunk or Gringotts vault would remove this minor annoyance, whilst allowing us to experiment with gear traits and character builds. The next major thing that needs attention for the sequel is the NPCs. The voice acting is... it's okay, I guess.
It's incredible, isn't it?
But the main change we need is interactability. You can only speak to NPCs who have a quest for you. Every other NPC can't be spoken to, which really seems odd to me. Even retro games from the 90s give NPCs at least a single line of dialogue. Not sure why they did this, and also NPCs need better mannerisms. Whenever someone talks to you, they always have their hands crossed in front of them like they're all prim and proper. Anyways, every flavour beans. Where are all the collectibles in Hogwarts Legacy? I want to collect famous witches and wizards cards, every flavour beans and chocolate frogs and stuff. There's genuinely not much to collect, and therefore little incentive to explore outside the castle. Even inside the castle, the only things to collect are chests containing money or gear that you will likely end up selling anyway for the inventory space. And last but not least, in Hogwarts Legacy 2, we definitely want to see more magical moments. There were some in the first game, but nowhere near enough. This is a world filled with wonder that should inspire awe at every turn. I want more uplifting or inspiring scenes, like when we rescued the hippogriffs, or when we released all the beasts in the vivarium. So there we have it. There's a handful of features that I'm sure we all want to see included in Hogwarts Legacy 2. The first game was absolutely fantastic and has laid the foundations for a promising sequel that I can't wait for. Let me know in the comments what features you think should be included in or excluded from Hogwarts Legacy 2. I've been Heatheretta Margomingle, and thank you very much for watching.
There's the Hogwarts Express. Must be returning from an unscheduled run.